What are we looking at today, guys? We are going to look at some, careful, illegal knives. You know what time it is. Turn down the volume. Here comes a little bit of music. So I do know that Jared over at Neves Knives just did a video about this same topic, and I'm not just trying to get on the same platform and do things that he's doing. I actually had thought about doing this video. I did it once before. I've got some more examples of them now, and I thought it would be fun, and it turns out that Jared had done the same thing. And so since his video got a lot of traffic, I figured why not do mine anyway? So I talked to Jared about it last night in a live feed. He knew I was going to do it. I told him about it a couple days ago. So I have several examples of illegal knives. And when I say it's illegal, I want you guys to understand, please, I'm only responsible for what I say, not what you hear. I do know that in some municipalities, you are perfectly legal to carry. The state of Ohio has made it so that you can carry an automatic knife, gravity knife, butterfly knife. They don't care what you carry. That's fine. When I say illegal, I'm talking about the fact that these are federally prohibited items, that if you get caught traveling from state to state with this item, you have now committed a federal offense. If you happen to go to a federal installation, these knives are not authorized federally. It's just like a lot of the happy cabbage laws. Legal some places, but if you really want to get down to it, the law of the land, the federal law says they are not. So, not to make this take any longer, guys, let's turn this around and we're going to take a look at some of these knives from above. All right, guys, so we have here the three main type. These are two autos, a gravity knife and a butterfly knife. And yes, I know that this is basically a trainer, but I no longer own an actual balisong. I own this, which is basically a glorified bottle opener. So before we get started, let's look at the legalities of this. So this all it stems from the switchblade ban that started in the 1950s. So it actually was done in 1954. It was James Delaney. He was a Democratic senator in New York. And this all came from a weird craze of stuff that happens in the 1950s press. So 1950 press definitely sensationalized a bunch of stuff and said, oh, there's these mass gang violence issues we're having, but it really didn't come from that. What happened was in the 50s, if you guys remember, James Dean, Rebel Without a Cause, Marlon Brando, in a couple of movies, they were delinquent bad boys and they carried a switchblade. Now, the real reasoning behind it makes no sense. The deployment method of a knife, or the speed of deployment, makes it no more or less dangerous than another knife. Switchblades came from the 1954. Gravity knives came a little later. I think if I remember right, it was 1956 or 1958. It all comes down, and then balisongs came along after. But it all goes down to just nanny state stuff, and it was 100% sensationalism in the press. So there's a whole bunch of different things that get said about these knives and why they're illegal. There is an element of racial bias in the switchblade law. When you go back to it, and I've read it in numerous papers, yes, there was this thing. It was sensationalized by the 1950s press after all these 1950s delinquent movies, like I said, with James Dean and all that. But a lot of it did 100% come down to there were specific ethnic groups that were synonymously associated with the switchblade and type of switchblade, the out the side stiletto, the switchblade, kind of like a button operator like this, but more of a stiletto factor. Italian and Mexican, Puerto Rican gangs. It was definitely a racial bias that led to some of this. And it fell into law, and then it became federally prohibited on a federal level to have these knives. And these kind of all just get wrapped into that switchblade law, which makes zero sense. But since we've already got kind of that out of the way, I want to just go ahead and reiterate what I said at the beginning. I do know that there are places where you can carry this. Ohio, Virginia, you can carry autos. Maryland, you can carry whatever you want. Those are state laws. I will tell you, if you take any of these items onto a military installation, an IRS building, a VA hospital, any of those places that fall under federal jurisdiction, you can and possibly and probably will be charged with a federal offense. A lot of states, this is a Class A or Class B misdemeanor. I can't remember. It's not a federal offense. It's not a felony in California anymore. It's now a misdemeanor to carry one of these knives. But the fact is, it is still illegal in a lot of places to carry these, and including any federal installation. Gravity knives are illegal for, the speed of deployment. And a lot of people will say also, like, oh, the laws came about because of the public health issue. People were hurting themselves and it was the nanny state. I don't agree with that, because all the laws I saw go back to these things where the press sensationalized things. Balisong laws came out a lot later, and it was part of the martial arts movie craze. Gravity knives just kind of fall into this switchblade thing, especially in New York, where they had a thing where if you could deploy a knife with centrifugal force, the flick of a wrist, it fell under the switchblade laws. You can definitely do that with this if it requires that you do not physically manipulate the knife. Really, you don't have much you have to do to deploy this item. So, but since we've got them out, let's look at the deployment methods on the ones I have. I actually have 3 autos. I have both my Ultratech, my full-size Ultratech, and my UTX 85, which I think is just about the perfect size for an OTF. These are double action OTFs. So what you're doing is you're pushing in. There's a spring that you got to overcome the tension, and when it reaches a point where it snaps forward, the spring down here, you push forward, and it has enough of a stretch that it snaps that slide up forward. There's a couple gates that get reset, and it just basically locks open, locks closed with the push of a button. A lot of people are afraid, like, oh, that could go off in your pocket. That's why they're illegal. Not true. That has nothing to do with it. These are actually relatively difficult to get to fire. You have to use a lot of force. I have a lot of friends that this one in particular, because I put aftermarket springs in that are a lot stronger. I have a lot of friends that cannot deploy this and have to use 2 hands. This one's same thing. This one is a lot lighter action, but that's really, really good. You have push button out the sides. There's also a push button out the front version of this, where you pull back on a lever, it locks, and when you push a button, it releases. That is a push button out the front. This is a double action out the front. Listen to that action. Bang. Not Neves knives. Gravity knives. I'm sorry about this one. Out the side is another deployment method. So basically there's a spring that has it under tension. The second you deploy the button, there's a plunger in there. Once it passes, it snaps open and then locks shut. The reason I like push button out the side autos, if you have a out the side auto, a push button, and you're working somewhere and possibly you're in gloves and you can't manipulate it, a lot of times pushing a button and having it deploy is a lot easier than manipulating it other ways. They are very, very useful. The out the side auto is possibly one of my favorites, because on one of these, let me grab something here real quick. I just grabbed my San Diego vote card here, as I already voted. These are designed to derail. That's a piece of paper. So these are designed to derail. So if you happen to bump up against something in the deployment, you have to then reset. These, if you bump up against something, like let's do it this way. If you bump up against something and it starts to deploy, if you just move it out of the way of the item that you bumped up against, it will still deploy. So these are a lot more reliable. You don't have to then mess with it and reset it. These are a lot more reliable. If you were going to say carry this as a tactical item, say as a backup, you would be able to still deploy it even if you bumped. The reason I don't recommend an OTF as a tactical is just what I said. Say you were going to use this and you happen to get up against your perpetrator or your opponent and it bumped up against, and then this knife didn't deploy, you would have to do some manual work to get it to open. So there's the autos. Gravity knives are really even more simple. It's simply like just that. The act of gravity provides the force of gravity provides the deployment on those. And they're a lot of fun. They're pretty cool to deploy. This is possibly the best gravity knife I've ever seen. This is the EXO. I've done a couple videos about this. I really, really do like this. It has some striking, fun things you can do with it. And the big thing about why some of these are illegal, that looks scary, right? When you see somebody go like this, and then they've got the knife in their hand, like in an instant, it does look scary. But the speed at which a knife deploys does not change the fact that it's not a weapon, it's a tool. Like, I haven't ever used any of my knives for anything except cutting items. And then the last item that's really a prohibitive thing is a butterfly knife. And these are really silly because they're actually not faster to deploy. You can't do anything during your flourishes. It's not like during the flipping action and the flourishing action that you're doing any cutting. It's not like that is what makes it dangerous. There's so many misconceptions about these knives. If anything, of these three, this is the one that is the most difficult and requires the most work and, intricate manipulation of the knife. It does not make it any faster. It doesn't make it, I've got a limited amount of space here. Sorry, guys. But that flipping action that you see guys do that is just basically for show, it doesn't add any hazard to the knife. It doesn't make it easier to deploy. It doesn't make it any more dangerous. So, like I said, most of these laws are federal laws. States have started to relax a lot of these laws. They realize that they make no sense. Some of these laws are like wiping before you poop. They make no sense. This does not make that knife any more hazardous or dangerous than a knife I can deploy like that. It is no faster. There's nothing there. But just because the fact of this is it doesn't have a spring and I have to physically touch the knife or manipulate the knife in a fashion that it deploys, as opposed to a hidden catch, button, or latch, which is how the law is written, I don't actually have to touch the blade on this to deploy it. It's just silly. They make no sense. So, guys, I thought this would be fun. I just kind of wanted to go through some of it. I might put up right here, I might put a link to the actual statutes and laws if I can find them, but they're so convoluted and weird, and there's no real good reason or reasoning other than there was people that were just scared by what they saw in movies, and the news kind of just publicized it and sensationalized it and made it and blew everything out of proportion. So, guys, that's it. Let's turn this around and do some final thoughts. I just thought this would be fun. Like I said, guys, at the beginning, the legality of you carrying any of the items I just showed are determinate on local laws. The fact is, like I said, some places allow you to have them. Yeah, I understand. But when it comes down to it, the federal law states that these items are prohibited. Switchblades, butterfly knives, gravity knives, they're all prohibited for multiple reasons. We talked about some of the silly reasons that they've been vilified and taken out and made illegal. So, guys, that's it on this one. If you like the videos, give them a thumbs up. If you don't like them, give them a thumbs down. But please try to tell me why I can't change the content if you don't tell me what you don't like. If you want to support the channel, it's as simple as like, share, subscribe, drop a comment, follow some of these other channels. Jared has been doing a great job supporting this channel. I really appreciate it. I love all the stuff that he's done. I cannot say how much I appreciate it. So if you guys do want to support the channel financially, I have a lot of ways you can do it, and they're all down in the description tab. First, I have a membership link that gets you in on exclusive content, a bunch of different perks and things like that, including a gilded server, premium tier sharpening tutorial series, and I let you guys save $5 per knife on my sharpening service. So that puts it at $20 a knife plus shipping. Other ways you can do it, I have affiliate links down below. Anything you purchase, I get a little bit at checkout. They don't charge you anything extra. And the final way is I have a merchandise store on Ember Shirt Co. I've set up a coupon code that saves you 10% at checkout anywhere at Ember Shirt Co. And that coupon code is CrazySharp, all one word, capital C, capital S, CrazySharp. Saves you 10%. And if you send me pictures of you wearing my merchandise, I will put them in a video. Guys, that's it. I love y'all. Keep it clean in the comments section. It makes it easier to moderate the channel. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. And I will see you in the next video.